Okay, cool. We're live. Welcome back. Schedule 1, episode 6?
Yeah,
You
6.
said? Okay, 6. Wow, we went 6 episodes. The Devil
Really getting
Menu.
up there.
Mhm. Um, we did 2CB last week with a little LSD mixed in. That was a really good one.
Yeah, I liked
Um,
it.
this one's going to be kind of different. We're going to do DMT, dimethyltryptamine. Um, well, there's some other names.
Specifically in DMT.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
haven't tried 5-MeO yet.
And basically the difference between those two is one's visual and one's not. uh, I got a notification. Anyway, you got me off track. God damn it.
I apologize. Well, while you try to figure out where you want to start, I guess I could talk a little bit about the difference between in DMT and 5-MeO.
Yeah, go ahead.
Um, Again, though we haven't done 5-MeO from the trip reports I've read and talks I've listened to given by people, it seems like with DMT, every single time is a new experience. There's something new to learn. But with 5-MeO, very frequently people say like they've tripped under 5 times on 5-MeO because that's all they needed. They felt like they didn't need to trip on 5-MeO anymore. They kind of learned what they needed to, and the substance, the entities, the machine elves, whatever you want to call them, they kind of told them, you're done here. Stop visiting. And so people just moved to in DMT.
Yeah, I mean, it's very teaching. And what I really want to talk about first off, to describe a DMT trip in terms of other psychedelics. DMT, I think, is widely considered to be the most powerful psychedelic, the most powerful hallucinogen that we know of at the moment. When we describe a DMT trip, words almost aren't enough to quite capture the picture of what's going on. There's just not the language created to describe what's happening.
To quote Joe Rogan, DMT is like a mushroom trip times 1,000 plus aliens.
Exactly.
I think that's one of the best ways to put it. It is, even though it's something else entirely, I can really see how like DMT and psilocybin mushrooms are so similar to me. I can really see how if you just take enough mushrooms, you can reach a DMT level experience.
Yeah, you'd have to take a bunch of them. Though I
Oh yeah.
imagine.
I mean, you definitely have to take a shitload, but I can still definitely see it.
DMT. I mean, just the comparison between the two, psilocin, which your body converts from psilocybin, and DMT. They're almost the same. Almost the same molecule and structure, but there's only one single change, and it's like the location of the oxygen compound, the oxygen element. I don't know the correct jargon here. I'm probably using it wrong, but there's only one small difference between it. And the compounds, they look exactly the same on a piece of paper, the same structure, and the DMT molecule is also very similar to serotonin, and people compare them as like cousins almost. If you saw them on, laid out with the links and whatnot, they're almost indistinguishable. But conversely, DMT is made naturally in our brains, whereas psilocin isn't, naturally occurring in our bodies. That's where
To
the
bounce off
main
of that for a second, if you don't mind.
yeah.
So it is. There's some interesting conspiracy theories about DMT. It is produced within us in our brains, specifically the pineal gland, which, if you were to locate it in your head, it is where your third eye would be, just a
Yeah.
few inches back.
And then going off that, in lizards and other like less complex animals, the pineal gland actually has an eye, a third eye, a lens, a cornea,
Oh wow,
all the structures. But it's not visible under, but it is there.
that's really cool.
Only in humans. Did you know the pineal gland is the only gland in your brain that does not have a like a reflection, like a left side and a right side? There's only one.
I did
And
not.
it is directly like in the middle of your brain, sunk in there. And I think the theory is it just gradually got deeper and deeper in your brain as humans developed. But it's super interesting, the third eye. I didn't know that was a thing until I heard Graham Hancock say it. But that's super super cool. I think I heard somebody theorize like fluoride in the people. The government puts fluoride in the water to stop you from naturally producing DMT in your pineal gland.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
I don't think that's true.
I think out of like all I guess psychedelics by their very nature, they kind of, especially considering like they're Schedule 1 drugs in most countries, when at least a Schedule.
You're a robot for a decent while there. I'm gonna let you just restart.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so psychedelics kind of lend themselves to conspiracy theories, and especially DMT, mostly just because, like, in America, a Schedule 1 drug is a drug that has no accepted medical benefit and a high potential for abuse, neither of which is true about psychedelics. And this is kind of like, I forget what it's called in other countries, a Class A drug, a Class 1 drug, whatever you want to call it. It's kind of across the board. They're all super illegal, even though they seem to only really help you. So, like, for that situation, it does lend itself to conspiracy theories. But like we were saying, like with DMT, there's just so much out there. The people do think the government is trying to limit how much DMT we create by putting fluoride in the water.
And I think the way the way I dispute that is, wouldn't people, in 1700s have, very deep accounts of DMT naturally occurring in their, bodies, where when did the government decide to stop dumping the fluoride and we started changing, you know what I mean?
That's true. I would assume it'd be like subtle changes, maybe something that takes generations to happen, because otherwise, why not just get someone from a country that doesn't have regulated water? Like, I feel like just by that alone, wouldn't they? I don't know. I haven't looked too far into the conspiracy theory. I don't really believe it, but
yeah, I don't believe it either. But it's definitely interesting why they're banned. I was gonna go off with people have mixed ideas of what DMT's place in our Earth is, and like how it arrived or what its purpose is. And I think it breaks down into 4 main theories. And I remember speaking about this with you, but I don't know which one you exactly believe. But I'll rattle them off. And the first one is, the definitely, like out there, the extraterrestrials. And it's not necessarily, gray men with the big eyes, aliens.
Yeah.
Like the typical idea, but more of extraterrestrials, just intelligent life, not in the same form that we're in, but willing to communicate with us, on this chemical synthesis and exchange. And that's personally what I believe. I think personally, IMO, IMHO, don't hate. What I believe is like these things try to communicate with us, but they're not in the same medium. They don't communicate by making vibrations with cords in their body. It's a chemical communication, and when we ingest these, other beings, other life, uh, it's not our definition of life, but it's something otherworldly that we don't understand. But um, just generally, this communication is being exchanged with us, and I don't know if they're trying to tell us things or explain the universe to us, and it may just all be, what we project in the DMT trips,
Hmm.
something that's, the recesses of our mind. DMT trips are just, projections of what you're already thinking. But then you have another idea of kind of another being from another reality, like not in our universe or in our, you know, what is bound by our laws.
Hmm.
Just another. Um, is reality the real word here? I don't know if I'm.
It might maybe dimension. That might
Yeah,
be
dimension. Yeah, I mean other dimension figures, and I mean you could talk about that. I don't really know like how to explain it.
I don't either. If well, okay, I'll wait to comment. Do you have two more like
Yeah,
DMT
there's two
theories?
more,
Okay, okay.
and these are kind of like past and present. I think people say the dead is another way they communicate with us, and
Mm,
I think with the dead, there's the idea of the collective conscious, that all of our consciousness is from one giant organism or being, and it's free flowing, and it may not be inhibited in a being, but the consciousness is just all around us, and it's our way to tapping into it, and that's kind of a crazy out there one. It's cool to think about though.
it definitely is cool to think about, but it's a harder. I'm more accepting of outside beings trying to communicate with us than I'm talking to
Grandmama.
dead people. Yeah, yeah, that I'm channeling my great grandmother.
And then there's the idea of future humans. Uh, I don't know. I've never heard anybody like explain that one to me.
That's
Um,
really that is really interesting. Well, to go off of that for a little bit, so what I think it's really difficult to try and say, like, quantify my beliefs about what DMT is, why it exists. But
mhm.
in I I really like how Graham Hancock explains it in his TED Talk. I believe it's called
The war
DMT.
on
The
consciousness.
Yes, um, it's like one of the only two or three banned TED Talks. Surprisingly,
Yeah.
it's a pretty good one though. So the way he kind of explains it is we don't really know what consciousness is. We know that the brain is responsible in some way for it, but besides that, we don't really know like how it's generated, where it came from slash is coming from. We don't really know dick about consciousness. He thinks our brain is kind of like a receiver picking up our consciousness,
Hmm.
the frequency of our consciousness. So our consciousness exists in either another dimension or another reality, and our brains are just complex enough that we can channel it. We can funnel it through. We can siphon it.
Kind of like
It
radio tuning into the
kind
frequency.
of, yeah. That's the idea. I think I'm more in line to believe that we are, I guess, radio receivers that are just receiving a signal. And when you take DMT, I don't know what I believe is going on there. I don't know if I believe the signal is getting pulled into another receiver. I don't
Hmm.
know if maybe like introducing DMT to the receiver like introduces, I don't know, manipulation of the signal by outside entities. I'm not sure yet. I think that's one of the things I'll ruminate on when I trip. Just have those be one of the questions I frequently ask
Hmm.
myself. See if I can come to an answer that I agree with.
Um, that's I mean, there's tons of theories, and I think a lot of what we know comes from like Terrence McKenna's writings, and
Hmm.
Graham Hancock's and Rick Stressman, who wrote the Spirit Molecule, and I think he wrote that right after Terrence McKenna died. Like
Rip in
not
peace.
not like planning it, but just so happened, it came out that way.
Yeah.
And I think it was what I understand about his clinical test with DMT is he had around 60 patients, and he would do intravenous
Interesting.
injections. And I don't know how differently that is with the way we smoke it. But these people were reporting like near death experiences, and that was kind of matching up with what he believed, and they all had kind of similar themes of near death experiences. And I don't know if I necessarily read it into his report, but I read a short DMT trip somewhere, and it was like a negative one, and I had never read like a negative one before. And
I didn't know there could be. Like, it seems like something that's like so. So I think like you can have a negative experience with psilocybin mushrooms or LSD because even though you may be really high, just tripping your balls off, you still have some semblance of this is good, this is bad. Like at your very core, you have the opinion of I do not like this or I like this. I feel like DMT is so powerful it kind of circumvents that, and it's not good or bad. You're just experiencing it. Like it.
and
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh no. That's pretty much it. It just seems like. Yeah, please continue with the negative. Do you remember anything from the negative
I
DMT?
remember how it went. He said the trip went. It was like a clinical testing, and the ones who administered it to him, he looked very solemn, and then he started to cry, like staring off in the distance. He was tripping with his eyes, open, and he started to cry, and they were holding his hand, but he was tensing up. And eventually, when he came to, they asked him what he saw, and he said there were two alligators on my chest, and they were crushing me. And then they started raping him anally, and he was like wanting to like die, and he couldn't get over it. And he said he was in hell, and he when he came back, he was like super you know I don't know
Did he
how
say
you
like did that improve his life in some way?
I don't know how it like resulted in his life afterwards. I only read the short trip, but I mean, I've never heard anything like that.
So also in his talk, Graham Hancock, he mentions, so for some clarification, DMT, what we've been referring to, we've been referring to it as the synthesized chemical, the powder that you can put into either an oil burner pipe or to a vape and vaporize it. There are other ways of ingesting DMT. One of those is the very famous brew ayahuasca. Ayahuasca is essentially a vine with a shitload of DMT in it, cooked into a pot with another plant that has, I don't know the correct like grammatical way to say this, but it has a Maui in it, a monoamine oxidase, I think, inhibitor, monoamine oxidase inhibitor. And this Maui, like our bodies break down DMT very, very quickly. A DMT trip is only between like 5 and 15 minutes.
We have the natural inhibitor in our bloodstream, and that's why it breaks down so quick. It's only and that's another theory of like it's naturally in us. Where did it come from? Our bodies are prepared for a DMT trip because it's the inhibitor is in our liver. It's natural for us to take it.
And well, when you combine DMT with a Maui, you greatly prolong the effect of the DMT. So, like if you were to drink ayahuasca, DMT itself is a 5 to 15 minute trip, but ayahuasca is a 4 to 6 hour DMT trip. The Maui they introduce into it just greatly prolongs the trip. what's super interesting about that is the shamans. This is typically in Peru. It is elsewhere in South America, but it's predominantly Peru. The shamans say that the plants told them how to create ayahuasca.
Yeah.
So they claim that, these plants kind of told them like, hey, you need this and this for a real experience. And ayahuasca itself is a massive part of the community there. I'm a cultural anthropology major, and I love learning about other cultures, and ayahuasca is so ingrained in most of the Peruvian people's lives. When mothers are breastfeeding newborns, it is normal for them to put a bit of ayahuasca on their nipple so the babies get a taste for it, like at a young age. It's this amazingly interesting cultural thing. Yeah, do you have anything else you want to add?
I want to go on an ayahuasca trip to Peru and sit through some ceremonies.
Yeah, I'd love to go to an ayahuasca ceremony, like a real one.
I want to go I want to be, authentic, but I don't want to be so authentic where I'm in the poverty and I gotta carry a heater on me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if it's done correctly, like there are these really nice resorts that take care of you, and you have multiple ayahuasca sessions throughout the week. Seems like an amazing thing. I'd really want to try it. I could get ayahuasca here and drink it in my apartment, but I feel like the full weight of what it could be would be lost on me.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like part of the experience is part of the trip as well.
Yeah, I've seen a decent amount of documentaries and just videos of people participating in authentic ayahuasca ceremonies, and it's really normal for the shaman, your guide, to burn some kind of plant, like as an incense, kind of, and then using various parts from a tree, he starts chanting in like Peruvian songs. Like that's an experience I just won't get by pulling that up on Spotify and drinking it in my room.
Yeah. Creating it out of brewing it up in your little pan and drinking it compared to like this cauldron they have, I imagine. And they're just mashing around the stinking like mush, and I imagine that's what it's like. Chanting like indescribable I don't know, there's something about that music that just puts you in a reflective mood in like a mystical scene.
I think part of it is because we don't understand the language, but a lot of people, they say like the chanting from the shaman while they're under the influence of ayahuasca, some of the most beautiful music they've ever heard. Apparently it can be like a really spiritual thing when when you're under the influence of ayahuasca.
Maybe I'll listen to some like Justin Bieber and like some ayahuasca and I'll love it. Do you want to move on to our particular DMT trips?
Yeah. If you don't mind, can I take the DMT trip first? I feel like you have more to say about yours.
Are we talking about our first? Our first time where we fucked up. Do you remember that?
In general, I don't think so. Well, why don't you set the scene for me?
Well, the first time we were gonna try it, we loaded up in the micro G pen, and
yeah, we didn't hold the fucking smoke. That was
we didn't hold the smoke in our lungs, and that was our issue.
Yeah, that was my fault. I did not know you were supposed to hold in the vapor.
So we didn't actually get that high. It was just kind of looking around like, are you tripping? I was like, I kind of feel something. But yeah, that was just like the first time we fucked up. But you can go ahead and say your first.
So yeah, after that, I went to the forums and I tried to figure out what the fuck I did wrong, and I figured out you were supposed to hold it. So the next time I did DMT, I don't really remember any super specific visuals, but I was in my roommate's room. And the unique thing about DMT is I've never like mainlined heroin, but DMT is the fastest acting drug I have ever consumed. I am feeling. I feel like I'm in a. I feel like I'm in a plane that just broke its first G. When as soon as I exhale that vapor, like midway through exhaling, you just feel this boom, and you know you're going.
Mhm.
I remember when after I held it for the 15, 20 seconds, whatever I did, and I exhaled it, I really felt that boom, which was unique from our first time where I didn't really feel anything. And in her room, rotating around the wall, I was getting these rainbow holographic tribal symbols that were like I couldn't figure out what culture they were from. It was probably just nonsense, really. But that was, I think, my first hallucination that I got from DMT. The I don't know if this was the second time me and you did it, or if this was just the most successful time. But there was one trip where it was I didn't break through, but it was, I feel like, as powerful as a sub breakthrough experience as you could get.
Mhm.
Um, the room I was sitting in was morphing into all kinds of shapes I couldn't understand. I remember I sit right next to a wall. The wall stretched upward for dozens of feet and went out into infinity, where these golems were into the wall, and they would slowly like crawl themselves out and then move themselves back in. And for just like for the duration of the trip that I paid attention to the wall, I just saw these golems like step out of the wall and then step back into it.
Hmm.
Um, I think that's the majority of like what I remember, or what I can at least describe that doesn't sound like nonsense. Um, yeah.
Yeah. What I
So,
was.
what about you?
Um. I think before I say anything, like what I experienced, to describe a DMT trip, it's so powerful. It's like during the trip, you're struggling to try to remember. I mean, you're trying to remember so you can tell people like what's happening.
Mhm.
'Cause I went into it trying to like trying to catalog it so I could repeat it back, and at some point you're like, I can think about it or I can let it happen because your brain can't process two things at once, and it's it's like being on the edge of a cliff, and a tsunami wave just hits you and it recedes, and the only thing you can remember from that tsunami is the water you can like drench out of your clothes. Like that's what you bring back from a DMT trip. The tsunami just burst you, and then you all you can remember of the wave is just the water you wring out your clothes. Like
Good analogy.
um it's so powerful. But the second trip we did, I was aiming for a breakthrough, and we took the puffs. We had just
This is
multiple,
vaporized out of a small. It's called a micro G pen. For those of you familiar, that's how we've been taking in all this so far.
and we had a system like you charge the pin and let it get hot, and then you take your hit and you hold your breath for 10 seconds, and as five was, you would count down to me, like a count back, and so I'd know when to start holding and letting go of the smoke and taking my next hit.
Hmm.
And my first hit wasn't bad, and I think you said the smoke was just awful to you, like the taste or the harshness or something.
I think
uh,
so when it's vaporized, like it's one of the easiest things I've ever smoked. I feel like I licked a tire after I smoked DMT. I think that's just the biggest downside of it for me is it's
yeah, it
just
tastes like plastic.
very plastic rubber aroma just fills your nose and your mouth.
But I mean, first toke, fine. I'm feeling it. The second toke, I'm like, holy shit, what the fuck? And everything's going bigger and smaller. But I'm like, I need to hit this third hit to really like. I wanted to break through, and I hit it. At some point, I lose during the hit. I can't remember, like I lose your talking, like you're counting back, so I don't know when to hit it. And eventually I remember I need to hit this third one, and the pin is just like tiny in my hands, like a toothpick when I go to hit it, and my hand's getting huge, and I'm like, I can't fucking hold it anymore. So I get this third token, I hold it for about 5 or 6 seconds, and I let it go, and I drop the pin, and I just fall back, and I break through, and I remember just all the walls just, I mean, going away like it was a PowerPoint
a PowerPoint
presentation.
slide transition.
Yeah, a transition, and it just wipes away, across. And I'm in this this blue ocean. I'm floating on my back, and that's because I was laying down, and I imagine that's why I'm laying down in the dream, and I'm floating on my back down this like little like ocean, but it's moving, so it's a river, I imagine. And it's just, there's no land, it's just like blue everywhere, and there's like pink clouds, but they're not like up in the sky. Like the sky is like a few feet above my face. Like it feels like it's like the top of a room, and I'm just floating down this this river, and these cotton candy clouds are all over the place, and it was just a cool little process. Like I didn't have anybody come out and speak to me, or I didn't have any like revelation, or like a being the mother spirit didn't contact me.
I think that's the thing I'm most looking for when I try DMT. So I think the extent of being contacted by some kind of intelligent life, during that trip I referenced earlier, the strongest one I've had so far, I remember something. It sounded like a robot was screaming in my ear. For those of you familiar with dial-up, it sounded like the dial-up ringtone was in my ear and repeating itself. It was trying to tell me something. I think I took enough to have them attempt to communicate with me, but not enough to understand what they were saying. So I was in this like weird gray zone of being screamed at by robots.
And I mean, not that much happens, past that. I eventually snap back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity. But I'm kind of speechless and just like in shock for a few moments as I'm coming down. Off this DMT high, and the DMT come down is much like a normal, like a mushroom come down, or any psychedelic come down. You still have the reflection in like small visuals. But the visuals were intense still. They were still very intense. And I'm looking at Kirk, and he's this like tree man, and he looks like Groot from what is that movie?
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, you look like Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy. Like you had like a stump head and everything, and moss on you. And eventually, I came down and we talked about it. Probably remember more then, but like it's just like communicating a dream. Like the longer you go, the more you're gonna forget it.
Yeah. The way a lot of people do DMT trips is they keep like a tape recorder, or they film themselves. So as soon as they come down, they just start saying bullshit. They just start talking and try and record as much of it as they can.
Yeah, I wanted to do that next time.
Yeah, I'd be down for that. Oh, well, actually, so following what you were just saying, I also remembered when I looked at you on my DMT trip. It's interesting that I look like a tree man to you because you looked robotic to me. The best way to describe the makeup of your face and head is that you had 6 or 7 thick cables coming out of your neck that would like each one had a different part of your face. So like one cable would have the eye, one would have like the forehead, and it looked like your face was like a cyborg jigsaw puzzle that was put together by these cables coming out of your neck.
Whoa. I don't think you told me that. I just remembered it. We did do I remember another trip. I think we did one after that because we have waited like an hour in between trips because that's what we had read, and naturally makes you baseline after like an hour.
Yeah.
And we did a third one, and this one I remember all the walls turned white, and they just went blank as soon as I broke through, and they all started like closing in on me like I was in this white sphere room, and then eventually that broke away and it was black nothingness, and I was seeing like the evolution of man, like the Vitruvian Man, I think it is the Da Vinci drawn man.
Yeah, I think it is Vitruvian Man.
In that kind of art style, I watched like, from the Hunchback, to the upright walking to the the modern man, kind of like the progression, in the famous, drawing.
Yeah, yeah.
But I watched the whole start from like fish person to like final product. It was a really interesting like watch.
Yeah, that's
I don't
super
know.
cool. I don't think you've told me about that.
I don't remember how it worked or how it blended, but the morphing it eventually, it was like I was watching something off the Discovery Channel, like a dramatization. I
Yeah,
broke
yeah.
when I came like back to reality coming down. I was looking at you again, and you were this like rat man, and you had whiskers, right? And you had your hands were like T-Rex hands. They were like stubby and like hanging, and you were picking through something like with your little rat hands, like how if a rat had hands, how it would pick through shit. That's how you would like you would pick through. You were fucking with something. You're probably weighing out like chemicals or whatnot, and I just saw your little whiskers and your little rat nose, and I don't remember if you had a tail or not. I don't think you did. I think you're just a rat person. And I'm watching you, and you eventually evolve into like this Neanderthal, and I watch you slowly like change into like a modern human. I know that Neanderthals didn't evolve into modern humans. I know there's a split, but uh, it wasn't like an evolution. It was like a morphing.
That's super interesting. That's really funny.
But it was really, really cool, especially the little rat person I saw you become.
That is
That's
really
super
cool.
cool.
I say when we next hang out, we should break out some DMT.
Yeah, it's not something you like just like off the blue. You're like, I want to smoke some DMT. I don't know. I mean, it's so powerful. You're almost like wary of it.
Yeah, disclosure, I have DMT on me, and I haven't smoked it in a good
Dude,
couple
the fucking
weeks.
pigs are listening. You can't say that.
Good luck, pigs. It'll be long gone by the time you get here. Um, I I am wary of it. It's such a powerful experience, and even though it only lasts 10 minutes, you'd think like, why not just smoke it fucking once a day until you're out? I don't know. I feel like I don't need to. It's just such a strong thing. I feel like if I do it once every couple weeks, then that's sufficient.
um, yeah, I mean, after that second breakthrough, I was like, I think I'm good for a while. I mean, I hadn't been taught anything, but the visuals were so powerful that it was like I was taught something.
Mm.
I remember, after you come down, you're just in shock for a little while. You're like, you can't process words. I think one of our other friends was with me, and he was like saying some stuff, but like there was no way I could have processed his words, or like, I mean, just like shaking my head like I had just died and came back to life. Um, I just went to the next reality and came back.
Yeah, yeah, that's understandable. I actually would be interested to know. So like psilocybin, It definitely affects parts of the language center of your brain. I'd be
Mhm.
curious to know if DMT does something similar, because I feel like it's really difficult to communicate when you're within like 20, well, I'd say like 10 to 15-ish minutes of involving yourself with DMT.
I also remember this just came back to me. I remember during the trip where I first broke through that was like super strong. I remember seeing like I remember the time was spread out like extremely long. Where I had only broke through for like maybe a minute 45 seconds. It had felt like honestly like years. Like I had lived life
Hmm.
in this trip. And I say that as like little brush. Like he would definitely remember that if it happened. But it's like a dream. I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard to remember your dreams.
I think
And
just so much is happening. It's like, I don't know, at any given time, like yeah, on LSD, for example, you can definitely notice things are going on and things are happening. But if you really wanted to, on a low-ish dose, you could distract yourself from the visuals just by going for a run or something.
mhm.
With DMT, like everything is just everything's given it its all. Like everything is going 110% in accordance with the DMT. Everything is just freaking out, morphing, moving, growing, shrinking, transforming. It's something else.
I definitely would you recommend this is a question. Would you recommend DMT to just the average person you meet on the street?
Um, that's really general, but
Just you bump into somebody at a coffee shop and you're like you got your DMT shirt on, you're like, what is that? Oh, it's DMT. Should you try some?
I
What
think
would you
if
say?
I think I'd be down. Like I am on board with introducing random people to DMT. I think actually, Joe Rogan put it like Joe Rogan says after experiencing DMT, it's such a crazy thing that if you were to see a UFO land right next to him, fresh off a DMT trip, he he'd be chill with it. He wouldn't really care because there is no way that UFO is anywhere near as insane as that DMT trip. I think that DMT is so bizarre and so crazy, and so few people have heard about it. I would want as many people as possible to at least have like a 5 minute experience. I think I think it can be good for newbies specifically because it's so strong that I I feel like
Would you
most
give your
people
parents DMT?
I wow, I don't know. My mom might have a panic attack. I think my dad would just be speechless for weeks. Um,
Weeks.
Well, I feel like if you live your whole life and the only drug you've ever done is alcohol and nicotine, and then you try DMT,
Marijuana,
like,
dude.
oh, okay, yeah, that's right, that's right. Well, that was in high school. Like, I feel
This
like,
is weed. You know what being high is like.
okay, yeah, that's true. Yeah, he would probably he definitely handle it better than my mom. Um, but it's such a massively crazy thing. Like when my roommate, when he tried LSD for the first time, he was talking to me about it and he said, like, why didn't you guys explain to me that this is what LSD was like? And I told him, like, what do you mean, dude? We told you shit moves, shit gets wavy, shit breathes. And he's like, nah, but you didn't explain it like this. He said specifically, I did not know it was possible to see the things I'm seeing on this. I think so many people just don't even know that their reality can be that altered, that seeing that that's possible would just shock. And I don't know, I'd be really interested to see how the average person would react to a DMT experience.
Would you give your pet? No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, it'd be kind of
Imagine
a
if there
dick
was
move.
like,
I'd have to blow it in their face and then hold their nose so they couldn't exhale.
ima- imagine if there was like a pet equivalent of like just a leaf they could chew on and go to another reality.
I would really like to know what a like there are experiments when people give their cat LSD. I want to know what like something that's lower in the brain complexity scale. I want to know how they would even interpret and experience something like that.
I wonder what it'd be like if a dolphin had DMT.
That'd be really interesting.
I was listening to some Alan Watts the other day, and
Fucking love Alan Watts.
he was talking about like the only intelligent life in comparison to in our ballpark of intelligence is dolphins,
Mm-hmm.
and they have like leisure activities and whatnot and similar customs. I wonder what it'd be like, to give them like a psychedelic.
I'm really interested in that. Yeah, I want to know if like are they complex enough creatures that their behavior would noticeably change. That's a really interesting idea. But so there is one more little trip report I wanted to add, and I didn't tell you about this.
Yeah.
A couple hours ago, I smoked Changa for the first time. Well,
Whoa, really?
had a real experience for the first time. Now, for those of you listening, I did not have a lot. It was only 70 to 100 milligrams worth. Um, I don't have a lot in total right now, so I have to kind of use it sparingly. I think next time though, I'm just gonna go for the whole stash, go for broke, and see what that's like.
Yeah, do you
Um,
need me to come down and we'll smoke it?
I I'm on board with that. I might actually try and get some more because I think I only have 200 milligrams left, and what I experienced was cool, but it was only for a few minutes. Real like if you truly trip on Changa, it's supposed to last upwards to an hour. So I definitely need more.
Now, what was in this Changa?
Okay, so Changa is essentially smokable ayahuasca. It is a plant that has a Maui or has a lot of Maui. I don't know the correct way to say that, but it is I think, a variation of the cappy plant in South America.
Yeah.
But it is essentially that was soaked in a DMT extract, and then when after it was soaked, it was let out to dry, and it is essentially just a Maui with a shitload of DMT in it, and that's what you smoke. And it's kind of the same rules. You don't torch it; you just kind of kiss the flame to the flower, and you hold it for 15, 20 seconds, somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
But the craziest thing, I might have kind of, I don't know, not psych myself out, but went in with a bias with it.
Yeah.
So my trip wasn't very visual, but it was very natural.
Emotional?
Not natural. So like I have a painting in my room, and it's a painting of space with a multicolored explosion going on in the background. This thing has pretty equal parts color. There's black, various shades of greens, blues, purples, reds, oranges, yellows, all that. When I was looking at my painting, it was almost entirely green, as green as a
Whoa.
tree. When I was looking at my walls, they look like tree bark. Like I was looking around my room and I felt like I was inside of a big tree,
Like a
and
tree house.
like a tree house. And when I was staring at my pillow, I was just thinking about, just the Changa in general, like the taste of it, what it was doing to me.
What did it taste
And
like?
it was pretty good. It tasted like you can tell there's DMT in it, but it's definitely like, it's like smoking a flower, like an actual flower,
Huh.
something you would smell and be like, oh, that's kind of nice.
Yeah, but,
Um, I was staring at my pillow thinking about the Changa, and I just felt this presence urging me to go to the forest. And I can't explain it, but I just felt this very feminine, motherly, protective presence and it wanted me to go to the forest.
huh.
That's Yeah, that's the extent of what happened on the Changa trip. There were light like
Did you
shifting
go to
and
the forest?
I did not go to the forest. I
Why
stayed in
didn't
my
you go to
room
the
and looked
forest,
out the
dude?
window. I'm really excited to smoke. I mean, it's a flower, or it's just like weed. So I think I will smoke Changa out in the woods one day. Um, that's something I'm really looking forward to, provided again, I get enough.
Yeah. But yeah, that's really cool. I didn't know you had any like to smoke on you. Um,
Yeah,
But
it's like
very interesting. You were visited by the mother spirit.
I know that's I'm back and forth on like whether or not I kind of wanted that to happen and it happened, or if maybe because I knew well. I assume the Cappy plant came from South America. Maybe I was just thinking like this is essentially, smokable ayahuasca. This is a very semi-spiritual thing that I'm about to
Hmm.
partake in. And maybe if those factors, maybe they just kind of came together to create this feminine presence. But it was really, really unique. I would say that's the only time where I've been tripping and I've felt the presence of anything.
Hmm.
Well, aside from robots screaming at me, but I wouldn't really consider that like a presence.
I've heard voices on mushrooms, but I projected them as like myself talking to me.
Hmm.
But I've
Were
never
you
had
able
like,
to like distinguish what they were saying, or was it just
yeah,
like,
I mean, it was like me talking to me from like another room, like
okay,
shouting from another room, like I could hear myself echo like I was in a canyon. Um, but I've never had like another being come to me and like talk to me. Really jealous. I'm really wanting that experience, but I just haven't had it yet.
oh, well, what I would be down for, I think it's only like, I don't know if I'm getting it at a good price or not. Like, I think I originally bought it at $35 for half a G. Um, if you want, I think I can get a G, and next time we meet up, we can just burn through that.
Yeah, dude, but you gotta come to my place. I've
Yeah,
already
yeah,
been to
for
your
sure.
place.
For sure. I was trying to think of like I have a couple, drugs that I want to take, and I'm trying to think of what I want to bring down over there and take at your place. I really want to take mescaline at the beach.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I think I'll take it. Fuck it. We'll probably do mescaline at your place first. I want to get a hang of it like in a safe environment before I go out to the goddamn Pensacola beach when it's going to be 85, 90 degrees out there.
Yeah, and we
Um,
may do it like a park or something. I
yeah,
don't
that's
know.
true
I'll
too.
look around.
Yeah, if there were like public parks that aren't
I mean,
super
there are
busy.
public parks, but I mean, I don't know. We should go to there's a dog park right down the road, dude. We could go to that. Imagine like us two like blown out of our minds on a full mescaline trip, and like all these dogs are coming up to us.
I'm super excited for mescaline. It's it seems like something that is unlike anything I've taken so far, and the way it's described is very unique. I'm super interested in trying it. What I might try and do, even though it's not, even though it is a research chemical, I might try and take the ALLAD at your place. I think
Yeah,
that's an analog of LSD. It's essentially not as headspacey, but just way more visual.
and shorter.
Um, yeah, yeah, 6 hours, 6 hours.
Oh,
Um,
way better than the 16 hours.
I know. I acid just fucking grinds on me for so long. This would be welcomed as like I trip during the day and I can smoke a bowl and go to bed at night,
Yeah.
as opposed to going to bed at 4 in the goddamn morning.
And then waking up like you got knocked out by Mike Tyson.
Yeah, it would be. I don't know what the after body load is like, but I can only assume it's easier than LSD. Um, Trying to think. But yeah, those are the big drugs that I want to take. I don't know what else we could try. I don't think I have really anything on me that's different that we could take at your place at the moment.
Mhm.
I'd be down to drop more acid. Uh,
Oh, duh.
but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
We'll burn that bridge when we get to it. But yeah, I think that's really what all we had to say about DMT and a little Changa.
Yeah, I definitely plan. No, like I said, I have more DMT, so I'm sure there'll be more coming from us in the coming weeks. Uh, Especially with the Changa. I'm like DMT. It's just kind of this overwhelming, this huge event that I kind of look at it with. I don't know. I look at it like a parent going to Disney World. You're gonna have a good time, but it's gonna be a lot of work. It's gonna be exhausting. But the Changa, like this was so unique and so natural, which is really unexpected. I'm definitely interested. I will most likely be purchasing more Changa so we can try that. That was really different.
Yeah, I'd be down to it. But join us next time where we talk about who knows. Then we have to think about what our next substance is going to be. We talk about, but
I think actually, unless like we get together really soon, I think our next episode will probably have to be about a person or an aspect of psychedelic culture.
yeah, we'll do something. I don't know, but it'll be something different. Thanks for tuning in or starting the video. Thanks for clicking on the video because there's really nothing to tune into. Anyway, bye.